Adrenal glands. The adrenal gland, like the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, are composed of both nervous tissue and hormone-producing cells. The adrenal glands are paired endocrine glands anchored on the superior surface of each kidney. The adrenal gland interneural region secretes the catecholamines epinephrine and norepinephrine, which is adrenaline and noradrenaline. The stimulus for releasing these hormones is the sympathetic nervous system. Epinephrine accounts for about 80% of secretion, and norepinephrine is only about 20%. The adrenal cortex, which is the outer glandular region, is partitioned into 3 layers: zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, and zona reticularis. The outer zona glomerulosa synthesizes mineralocorticoids, which are the principal mineralocorticoid being aldosterone. This regulates sodium-potassium ratio in the blood and functions to help reabsorb water. The middle layer, zona fasciculata, synthesizes glucocorticoids, primarily cortisol and corticosterone. The inner zona reticularis synthesizes gonadotropins, which is going to be our androgens, which become our sex hormones. This is the 3 layers: zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, and zona reticularis, and the key hormones that they produce, as well as the key functions of each. Aldosterone's main function is to boost up sodium absorption inside the urine, sweat glands, salivary glands, and colon. This causes increased potassium secretion, but it helps you increase the water into the blood volume. The glucocorticoids, or cortisol and corticosterone, are going to cause hyperglycemia, create immunosuppression, increase the breakdown of lipids and fats, decrease glucose uptake in the skeletal muscle, and also increase gluconeogenesis and increase protein breakdown. Androgens, or sex hormones, are used to create testosterone and estrogen. These will have bone protective effects and also stimulate the sex cell for protection. Adipose tissue. Adipose tissue, also known as body fat, is a specialized connective tissue primarily composed of adipocytes. Their main function is for storing and releasing energy in the form of triglycerides. They serve various functions of the body, including insulation, protection of organs, energy storage, hormone regulation, and thermoregulation. Let's talk about a few of these key hormones: leptin, adenonectin, and resistin. Leptin is a hormone that is produced by the adipocytes and plays a role in regulating energy balance and body weight. Specifically, it suppresses appetite and increases energy expenditure, helping the body maintain a good weight range. Leptin resistance may contribute to obesity. The second one is adenonectin. Adenonectin is also secreted by adipocytes, and main function is to enhance insulin sensitivity, which improves the body's ability to use insulin to control sugar levels. And the last hormone is called resistin. This one is also secreted by the adipocytes, but it's not fully well understood. There's some conflicting information about whether it promotes insulin resistance or decreases insulin resistance. However, the general function here of fat cells is to regulate body metabolism, weight, and reproduction, as well as inflammation. The pancreas. The pancreas is a nodular organ situated between the duodenum of the small intestine and the spleen, directly posterior to the stomach. The pancreas performs both exocrine and endocrine functions and is thus a mixed gland. The structures inside the pancreas include the pancreatic acini, which are mostly comprised of these cells involved in exocrine activities, and they produce these alkaline secretions that helps in process of digestion. Scattered among the pancreatic acini are pancreatic islets. These islet cells are called the islets of Langerhans. Over here you can see the tail, the body, and the head, the pancreatic duct, and the entrance into the small intestine as joins a common bile duct through the duodenal papillae. The islet of Langerhans compose of alpha cells that secrete glucagon, beta cells that secrete insulin, theta cells that secrete somatostatin, which is the growth hormone inhibiting hormone, and also F cells that secrete pancreatic polypeptide, or also known as PP cells. And there's also an epsilon cell that secretes ghrelin, and this is only 1%. The PP cells and the epsilon cells are relatively new cells that are discovered also in the pancreas. The primary endocrine function of the pancreas is to maintain blood glucose level within the range of about 70 to 100 milligrams per DL. Insulin is released from the pancreas following food intake and when chemoreceptors in the beta cells detect an increase in blood glucose. The structure, as shown, A and B chains are held together by a disulfide bond on the cysteine. The main function is to facilitate the glucose entry into muscle, adipose, and other tissues by recruiting a channel called the glucose-4 transporter. It will stimulate glycogenesis and hepatocytes, lipogenesis and adipose connective tissue, and also increases the uptake of amino acids and glucose by most cells in the body. The release of insulin is controlled by a negative feedback. The counterhormone to this is called glucagon. Glucagon is released from the alpha cells in the pancreas in response to detection of low blood glucose levels. Glucagon raises the blood glucose by stimulating glycogenolysis, gluconeogenesis in the hepatocytes, and of course the breakdown of fats, lipolysis in adipose tissue. The release of glucagon is again also controlled by negative feedback. Glucagon, however, has no effect on the structural and functional proteins components of the body. Here are some other tissues that also secrete hormones in the body. The heart creates AMP, atrial natriuretic peptide, by also causing the drop and reducing of sodium uptake, therefore increasing urine output. The pineal gland creates melatonin and arginine vasotocin. Melatonin's main function is secreted during the light versus dark environments. It inhibits GnRH release and is believed to have reproductive functions through decreased blood LH and FSH. The third one is in the GI tract. There are also digestive hormones that regulate the release of acid, like gastrin. Also some local signals in the immune cells called cytokines that will then cause cells to grow and differentiate. And of course the pregnancy hormones and progesterone and estrogen, which we'll talk a little bit more in the reproductive system. Aging in the endocrine system. As we age, there's also endocrine changes that occur. There's a decrease in GH release, especially in those who exercise less. As a result, there's going to be a decrease in body mass. There's also a decrease in TSH and also T through T4 ratio, therefore causes a loss of TSH regulated functions. There could also be an oversecretion of PTH, leading to a loss of bone mass. A drop in renal renin release, therefore you have a reduced ability to regulate arterial blood pressure. There's also a drop in reproductive hormones, reducing sperm count and also menopause in females. And of course, reducing thymus functions, causing your body to have less mature functional lymphocytes.